Good morning. It is Friday the 21st. Just finished workout number 9. It was core day today. They say core day, but I don't think we did that many things for the back. So I think it was just ab day. Or I guess anterior core. I don't know what you would call it, but we did a lot of ab exercises, oblique stuff. I did some dive bombers today. In my check-in I put I did 3 of them in a row. The third one was I almost fell. I almost collapsed. So this is, you go from a plank up on your hands with your legs straight out, like a push-up at the top of the push-up before you go down, and then you go to pike, which is the same thing in yoga as the downward dog. Pike is the same thing. It's not quite as exaggerated as downward dog. You don't put your head all the way down between your arms and really arch your back. But it's the same, your body's like a tent. And then from there, the dive bomb portion is as if you were going to go into a cobra. You bring your head and shoulders low against the floor, and you start to flatten out instead of landing on the floor, you arch your back up and you lift your head and shoulders back up into a cobra position. That's the dive bomb part. Your head and shoulders are coming down, and then you're swooping back up. And 2 of them I can do fine, pretty strong. But by the third one, my arm strength and my back and everything starts to just the weight of my own body is too much, and I start to fail. But I push through a third one, which again is one of those feelings of increasing my fitness. I can actually feel it happening as I'm pushing through the third one and struggling to not collapse onto the floor. I can actually feel my arm and shoulder and back, abs, all of it, my whole torso, all of my. I think it's mostly arms and shoulders, but your abs and your back have to stabilize your body. So they're engaged too. So it's like, well, and your legs, I mean, it feels like a whole body type maneuver, You're not really putting a lot of stress on your legs, but your legs do have to stay steady. So you're flexing them. But that was amazing. And I had an interesting energy kind of fluctuation for this class. Early on, right after the warm-up, or at the very end of the warm-up, I felt this like tremendous burst of energy. Like, oh, here I slept pretty well, I'm hydrated, I ate correctly yesterday, I didn't cheat or anything. Here's this energy, my body's unleashing this energy, and it feels amazing. There's an ambulance coming here in front of me. I don't know if it's trying to go right. It's trying to turn in front of us or trying to go through the intersection. There it goes. Rural Metro. I almost worked for them. So, yeah, it was amazing. So the first round was 8 minutes and 6 exercises or something. And I was really able to push hard through that. And I do remember thinking, okay, if you go too hard right now, push too hard right now, you could get tired for the second and third ones. So be careful. And I guess I kind of ignored that thought, and I did push hard because it just felt good to just push hard, to just really try hard for those first 8 minutes. But then sure enough, during the second and third round, I could feel my energy kind of drop off. So for the rest of I think it was like maybe halfway through the second round, I just kind of tapered down. I just kind of like brought my energy to 3/4 energy, and just finished everything out like steady. Not not that I just dropped and quit and rolled over and I'm done, but I just didn't push myself that incredibly hard the rest of the. I'm looking forward to the day where I can push hard the whole class, where 24 minutes of pushing is possible instead of just 8. so that I'd have to be twice as fit as I am now, which I feel like I'm 3 or 4 times more fit than I was. It's funny, Miles is fascinated with percentages above 100. So he'll say, I wish I had a battery that lasted 1,000%. And I explained to him, well, 1,000% would only be if you were comparing a number from last year to this year's number, how much it increased. He said, what you really mean to say, and we looked at his tablet's specs and we looked at the battery, and I tried to have these little teaching moments with him. I'll connect this back to the point of what I'm saying so I don't get lost on this tangent, but his battery life on his tablet is 4,200 milliamps, which is actually 4.2 amps. So what that means is if you drew 1 amp from the battery, it's 1 amp per hour is what that number means. So if you put a 1 amp per hour draw on the battery, that's how many milliamps would come out of it. So 4.2 amps. So the battery lasts 4.2 hours at a 1 amp draw, which, the draw varies depending on how many apps you're using or whatever, what kind of demands you're putting on the tablet. So I showed him that. I said, look, you have a 4,200 milliamp battery, and this is what that means. It's the storage capacity of the battery with a given output. And if what you really mean to say is instead of 4,200, you wish it was like 42,000 or 420,000 milliamps, which would be actually 420 amps. So your battery would last 420 hours or something. So I tried to explain it to him like that saying 1,000% battery life wouldn't matter, because if it was a bigger battery, it would still be 100%. The amount of storage, the amount of juice left in the battery would still be 100%, because it's a number out of a full number. Anyway, the point of what I'm saying is, when I say I feel like I'm 3 or 4 times more fit than I was in January, like I feel 200% more fit, that's probably okay to say. The only thing is I didn't do an assessment in January. I didn't do any kind of, how far can I run, or how many push-ups or sit-ups, or any kind of test to figure out my baseline. So there's no way for me to know how much more fit I am now, except just how I feel. So based on how I feel, 2 or 3 times more in shape than I was, and so then I feel like I need to go again 3 times, give it 3 more months, or it's almost 4 months now. Give it another 4 months or 8 months from now, and I'm much lighter, and I'm actually able to push for 24 minutes straight, push as hard as I did today for the first 8. Then I'll be burning a ton more calories during the workout. My metabolism will be much more revved up the whole day. My muscles will be more engaged. So that's what, at a certain point, David, the guy from the gym, he was talking about. There's a certain point where you're able to actually increase your heart rate for longer during the workouts, and that really kicks your fat burning up. That's what he was talking about, that so there's something that happens in your body, and I've only read about this briefly. I'm not an expert or anything, but you can force your body into what's called anaerobic. So when you hear aerobics, that means with oxygen. Aerobic is a process, and aerobic means isn't just exercise. You have to think aerobic exercise is what you're talking about when you say I'm going to go to aerobics today, because aerobic, you hear aerobic in all sorts of chemistry and science and stuff. Oh, it's an aerobic process. Well, the opposite of an aerobic process, aerobic means with oxygen. So it means that you're doing, you're breathing deep, you're doing repetitive cardio-based exercises, and your body, your bloodstream's delivering oxygen at a normal rate to your cells. Well, if you go into anaerobic exercise, which is when you do something so fast and so intense that your cells cannot take in oxygen. They actually have to perform without oxygen. and this type of exercise only lasts, seconds. Like a power lifter, let's say, somebody who lifts an incredible amount of weight will do 10 reps of something very quick and very heavy, and it does not involve oxygen. It's anaerobic. It's above their threshold of oxygen. And what that does immediately is it forces your body instantly to begin burning fat, because your body, like, it just needs fuel. It needs an instantaneous amount of fuel. Like, it needs, come on, give me fuel. And especially once you've depleted all your stores, your glycogen. Your body turns glucose into glycogen, which is like an alcohol, kind of like a solvent. It's okay. If you think about gasoline, right? Gasoline is an alcohol. It's petroleum-based ethyl alcohol, right? Well, glucose is also, it's a carbohydrate. So carbo, right? It's the same thing as crude oil. Okay, crude oil is carbon, and they're different in a way because crude oil is much more dense, and you certainly can't eat it. But carbohydrates, your body sees them the same. Your body breaks it down into fuel from glucose into glycogen. And your muscles suck up this glycogen, and it keeps a store of it. It has a store of glycogen, and it can instantly release it, but it takes oxygen to do that. So you're kind of like removing the oxygen, and then your body needs that oxygen to release the glycogen to use as gasoline. Think of it as gasoline inside your muscles. So, and what happens is your liver can also store, and there's some, you can actually figure out your glycogen, like you can figure out how much storage your body has. It's based on your weight and your muscle mass and stuff, and your liver holds, they say that your muscles hold, say your muscles hold like 1,000 grams of glycogen, and then your liver will also hold 1,000 extra grams. So it's like you have 2 gallons of gasoline in your car. You burn through the first gallon exercising, then your liver releases the second gallon, and your body starts to burn it. And then at a certain point, you're completely out of it, and what your body does is it unlocks your fat. Because your fat is the glycogen in a permanent storage format. Your liver sees all the excess sugar coming into your body. Your pancreas, there's a whole chemical process where your body goes, okay, our muscles are full. We're not absorbing this glycogen anymore. We're not sucking up the glucose into the muscles or the liver. We're full. We're over capacity. Convert that excess into storage. Send that to storage for later when we need it. And it's because our bodies are programmed to survive famine through winters, long winters, where food becomes scarce, or you have to dole out. You'd farm say you were an ancient hunter-gatherer or agrarian, like either hunter-gatherer or a farmer. Well, all spring and all summer and fall, you gather food, you store it, and then when the winter comes, you have to eat the food, but you can't eat it all at once or you'll starve the rest of the winter. So you ration out your food and you eat it real slow. Our bodies became really, really good at storing fat for the long winter, converting any excess food we put into fat, so that later when there was starvation, when our bodies were close to starving, it would release that fat and keep us alive. It was a survival instinct. Well, in the modern age, the age we're in now, where food is abundant, where there's food everywhere you turn, and we're not just saying that there's abundant food, it's an understatement to say abundant food. Our society is bursting at the seams with food. The grocery stores have food more than we can possibly eat. Fast food is everywhere. So, in a way, our evolution, we haven't caught up. Our body still handles food like it did 10,000 years ago when we had to survive, the cycle of the seasons. Well, now there is no such thing. In the middle of winter, it doesn't matter what day of the year it is, how cold it is outside. You can drive 5 minutes and get food on demand. So the point of what I was saying, I got to trace this all back because I got off on a tangent, but the anaerobic exercise, which is forcing your body to go at such an intense pace or under such a strain, which is, heavy weight, super heavy weight, or super intense bursts of activity. Think of like someone sprinting. Somebody sprinting down the field. Or someone lifting 1,000-pound barbell, doing, a power lift with it in the Olympics or something. Those activities instantly unlock fat burning. The muscles, everything sends a signal, chemical signal, hormonal signal to your liver and to your muscles and everything. Hey, we need fuel instantly. We don't have time to let the oxygen unlock it. Give us fuel. And as long as you're eating correctly and your nutrition is correct, you unlock you immediately. The trick is, what I mean by that is, your intake of protein has to be sufficient, because your muscles can also cannibalize themselves. They can also take their own mass. Muscles can actually degrade themselves as fuel. And they do, and you get it as wasting. Crap, I went too far in this intersection here. What happens is, like, certain athletes, like marathon runners and long distance bicyclists, people that ride the Tour de France, they ride for so long and so hard that their muscles just begin to eat themselves for fuel, because the muscle is a really efficient source of fuel. But if you're eating correctly, you have sufficient protein in your body, you have sufficient hydration, your body is able to unlock the fat as a fuel source and instantaneously demand, it kicks into this fat burning process. It's a hormone. I know human growth hormone is part of it, but there's other hormones involved too that tell your fat, hey, turn back into glycogen, turn back from this lipid, this fatty. It's also an alcohol, but it's like a alcohol wrapped in fat kind of thing. It's a triglyceride, which you think about your arteries. We're always worried about cholesterol, right? Cholesterol level, good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. That's because fat is this kind of like fluffy, dense, sticky material, and it's loaded with glycerides, with triglycerides and glycerides, which, again, if you know anything about chemistry, a little bit about chemistry, glycerin is what's in soap, glycerin is what's in TNT. It's a kind of alcohol. So your fat, you can unlock it as fuel, and your body can burn it, but it's under the right conditions. So getting back to the original point of what I was saying is that after a certain point, you have enough muscles, you're able to push them hard enough, you get your heart rate up high enough that you transition from aerobic cardio into anaerobic cardio. And so that's the feeling, that's what happens. I'm pretty sure that my body, I can tell when my body is signaling for anaerobic fat burning, when it says, okay, we're going so intense right now, this is so difficult and so intense, we're putting so much weight, so much pressure on the muscles, Or like in the case of burpees, we're pushing beyond our normal heart rate. When we get our heart rate up to like 90% of capacity, you know, which is different, varies by your age. Once you hit that point, your body is signaling, hey, let's release some of this fat. We have all this extra fuel here sitting around, and we need it in a hurry. Let's release it. So I think the key for me going forward is to push myself into those moments more often, where I'm doing the third dive bomber, or I'm doing the 15th burpee or 20th burpee. I'm trying to picture myself doing 20 burpees in a row. What would that feel like? You know, after I've hit 15 and it's like, okay, this is my old limit. This is where I normally have begun gasping and maybe feeling a little dizzy as I stand up. What would it feel like to push beyond that and do 20, do 5 more, you know, or do 3 more dive bombers with my muscles, my shoulders and my arms shaking and my core locked up and my, you know, my lower back protesting and my shoulder protesting against no more, you know, come on. So that's the kind of thing I'm trying to focus on now, is like get to those moments. Try to get to a moment like that every class if I can, you know. Thankfully, they don't make us do burpees every day. Now, I have thought to myself, what if I just did 15 burpees at the end of every class? People would look at me like I'm crazy, that's for sure. But would it drive my fitness? Would it kick up my weight loss? You know, I'm sure. Would it also deplete me? Would it be dangerous? And, you know, would it actually work backwards? It might work backwards. It might tire me out so badly if I tried that every class that I'd begin, you know, missing workouts or injuring myself. So I do have to be careful about pushing hard, but not stepping over the line of injury or exhaustion. I had to just push against the back of the envelope, you know. I can't lead the envelope. I can't stick my nose out of the outside of the what do you call it? Concussion bubble. When airplanes hit the speed of sound, they start making these concussion bubbles, and you can photograph them. Ahead of that bubble, the air is moving faster than the speed of sound, and it creates a concussion wave, and that's actually what sonic booms come from. But I can't go so fast that I'm crashing, that I'm actually hurting myself. I have to just stay right at my level of fitness, you know. So 15 burpees at the end of every class, not gonna start doing that. That's a little crazy for me. Besides, at the end of most classes, I'm cooked. I'm really tired because of, like today, I pushed hard for eight solid minutes at the beginning. Well, plus the warm up, which is 5, so that's 13 minutes. So that's pretty much half. That is half the class. That's half the time, the actual time of exercise, because the class lasts 45 minutes. But of that, because we rest in between and he talks, he demonstrates. So 13 minutes of pushing hard in the beginning, and then by the end I'm like conked out. I'm depleted. I'm done. So anyway, that's some really rambling thoughts for you about the human body, how we store. It's funny how I got off into that. It is interesting though. I talked about battery storage for a tablet or a phone, for a, you know, electronic device, and then your body's storage of glucose, glycogen. I actually should look it up and read about it a little more, because, like I said, I've read just enough to know the basics, but I feel like maybe I have a little misinformation, or, you know, I don't quite have the process straight in my head. And it's not like it really matters, but it is good to be informed. It is good to know. The more you know about, you know, fitness and weight loss, the better armed you are to go forward into the into the fray. So, all right, I just got to the house. I'm going to end now. I'll check in tomorrow.